To the Geneva Press Club. My name is Isabelle Falconier and I'm the director of the Geneva Press Club. We are very pleased to welcome today the International Probono Legal Services Association, IPLSA, and its chairman, Mr. Junius Kwan Yuho. Welcome here in Geneva Press Club. The International Probono Legal Services Association is intending for the first time in person the Human Rights Council, which is currently holding its 55th session at the United Nations here in Geneva. IPLSA, as International Pro Bono Legal Services Association, is here today to share the essence of their statements as an NGO presented in different human rights conferences and their views on matters concerning Hong Kong and its laws, aiming to shed light on important legal and human rights concerns. So we have the pleasure to have two speakers here in the Geneva Press Club. Of course, the chairman of IPLSA, who also is a member of the Legislative Council in Hong Kong, Mr. Junius Kwan Yuho. Mr. Kwan, I give you the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to be here at Geneva to give you the briefing on what we have achieved during this mission to Geneva. Our delegation consists of about 8 persons, 8 members. Each has its own specialities. And I, as the chairman of the delegation, the head of the delegation, and also with the great pleasure to have our honorary president to come along to see what we do and how we did it at Geneva. Now, primarily, the mission and also the purpose of this delegation is to explain to the international community of what Hong Kong is like, especially after 2019, the Black Flag riots. And alternatively, it was called a colored revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, most of the media cover, which did not really give a fair view of the real situation in Hong Kong. In fact, Hong Kong had been suffering from terrorism, which was not aware of before the happening of the 2019. And Hong Kong has long been enjoying a very good reputation on the rule of law, upholding individuals' rights pursuant to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. So therefore, Hong Kong has been a signatory to the ICCPR and adhering to the obligations, discharging the obligations and duties dutifully. So the individual's rights have been well protected in Hong Kong. Business had been flourishing, very, very good. The prosperity in Hong Kong was excellent. Until 2014, then some people with a name as a law lecturer who taught law in Hong Kong University promote and pronounce that there should be civil disobedience. Now that caused the chaos, and that was the beginning. And in fact, it was not the end. Luckily, we managed to deal with and dispose the situation in 2014, the so-called civil disobedience then. So we managed to recover the tranquility and also the discipline in Hong Kong. But then those who had the ulterior purpose to upset the prosperity in Hong Kong had not been dealt with properly. So therefore, they were still at the loosen and out of the net. And then they had the time to come back to orchestrate the events that subsequently known as the Black Flag riot 2019. That was a really serious event which rocked the boat, disturbed the stability of Hong Kong so seriously. Luckily, the Special Administrative Region had, under the guidance of very good wise men, experienced politicians, and also the strong backup from the CPG, the Central People's Government, gave us all the backup and support in trying to calm down the situation. Nevertheless, we still had to go through more than half a year's turmoil, which brought to Hong Kong a total chaos. Shops were damaged, devastated, suffering from devastation. Individuals' rights were affected. Freedom of speech were prohibited. And also attacks were also very frequently happened back then in 2019, until the very moment when when we reached the time that enough is enough, and then people stood up to say protest against this sort of the riots. But given the fact that it was already quite a disturbance situation, majority of the population were very scared and very shy and timid to speak up. Nevertheless, still some people were brave enough to come out and to give a shout on the matter. So therefore, it led to the situation when the National People's Congress held a meeting on the 28th of May 2020, whereby a decision was taken up point by the CPG, National People's Congress, to instruct the NPCSC, the National People's Congress Standing Committee, to enact a Hong Kong security law, Hong Kong national security law for Hong Kong. And that was done on the 30th of June 2020. And this piece of legislation was effectively on the same day, starting from 11 p.m. Promptly. With the enactment of the legislation and also the new legislation coming into place, Hong Kong situation started to recover, and miraculously all the disturbances were rigged out, and those who caused the trouble and commit the offenses, particularly sedition and also provoking the public to resort to violence, had to face with the prosecution. And the prosecution was ongoing, had been ongoing since then and up to now. Quite a number of them had been convicted and sent to the prison. And that I call the first episode of the national security law being brought in place. And now is the second episode. Hong Kong SAR has to finish what is not completed, so we call it a part 2. Recently, the Special Administrative Region Government had introduced a bill called Safeguarding National Security Ordinance, and that was the draft bill introduced into the legislature and also gazetted on that day, on the 8th of March. We all, as a community in Hong Kong, welcomed the bill. In fact, before the introduction of the bill, there was quite a long period of time of general consultation, and then a very short period of time for further consultation before the introducing the bill. That took place on the 28th January up to the 28th of February. Then the bill was introduced on the 8th of March. And as soon as the bill was introduced and gazetted, the Legislative Council set up a bills committee to scrutinize the contents, to make sure that the drafting of which is in place and which is also in accordance with the international standard, especially Hong Kong being one of the signatories to ICCPR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to make sure that the contents and also the tenor, the purpose and spirits are in accordance with the ICCPR. And luckily, all the things were set in place, and after 40 hours of detailed scrutinization of the bill, it was eventually completed. Yesterday, I learned it from my colleagues, and as well as from the news, that the Bills Committee has already done their job properly. Today, the bill was referred back to the House Committee, and then it would be, in terms of the timeline for the enactment, the bill would be the resumption of the second reading, or also the third reading of the bill would take place in about a week or 2 times. So therefore, hopefully, keep our finger crossed, the bill will become effective as soon as the third reading is completed, sometime by the end of March. So that's the brief introduction on the background of the 2019 riots, which gave rise to the Hong Kong National Security enactment by the National People's Congress Standing Committee. And then the part 2 was the thing that we did it ourselves, Hong Kong SAR, to do it pursuant to Article 23 of the Basic Law. And that's the constitutional duty landed upon us, the SAR government, to do it. And again, here I am pleased to tell you that it is on the right track. At the same time, that's why our delegation is here in Geneva to report on the progress of the entire enactment procedure, the process, how it looks like, to clear the doubts in minds of some people in the international arena. So that's the main purpose. Secondly, of course, we also not only to explain Hong Kong situation in the Human Rights Council, we also have another team to comment on the compliance of the ICCPR by individual country. This year, the Human Rights Committee is studying on the ICCPR insofar as the compliance of the ICCPR insofar as the United Kingdom is concerned. So our delegation also complete and also submit a report for ourselves with a view to express our concern how the UK government would look after those who sought to emigrate to UK for right of abode. That involved about 120,000 Hong Kong people who chose to leave Hong Kong for a greener pasture. That's what they thought it to be. But according to the subsequent news report, it didn't turn out to be the way as they expected. The living condition that they had was not satisfactory. The job prospect, job opportunity, employment opportunity was not really as what they anticipated to be that effective. And also looking after their health against the price that they had to face with is not the bill that they have to settle with. It's not cheap at all. So even though with the money that they brought along to UK during the emigration, that was in the region of no less than $5 million or ranging from 5 to 10 million Hong Kong. That is somewhat equivalent to 1 million US dollars. Looking at the size and the amount of the money, objectively speaking, it was not a small sum. However, when counting on this, seed money for living, it is not really that much that they can hold on or cling on too long. So that's why we express our concern and to say to the UK government, especially at the forum of the United Nations, the Human Rights Committee, we make use of this platform to voice out our concern. We hope that those who emigrate to UK should be fairly treated. And at the same juncture, we noticed that there was another delegation, there was another voice coming out called the Hong Kong Scots. And exactly, these were the people, one of those who emigrated to UK during 2020 to 2022. And they complained that the way they were being treated were unfairly, in an unfair manner. So therefore, that really echoes our concern is correct. And the step that we took was precisely to address to the issue and also the concern. So these two are the things that we had done in Geneva. We are so happy to have this delegation constituted and also formed together with some young lawyers and also young individuals who could really come to Geneva to see for the sight and hear for the sounds themselves personally. And I myself is also considering that the session that we had was an eye-opening session, very fruitful as far as our body is concerned, organization is concerned, which is a non-government organization. It's a self-motivated organization organized by civilians. We're not speaking for the government, but rather is a voice representing the general public in Hong Kong. And we're also pleased to be able to bring this voice thus far to Geneva at the United Nations platform. So without further, I think, that's it for the time being for me to speak up to. And before allowing the floor to raise the questions, may I take this opportunity to introduce our honorary president, Mr. Chow Fook Sun, to come to join me and to speak out his feeling and also his general experience. Mr. Chow, please. Mr. Chow will be speaking in Mandarin, but while he will be speaking in Mandarin, Mr. Ines Tang will do the English translation, but allow Mr. Chow to speak in 普通话 first. 曹会长，你好，先说。
好。各位传媒朋友们，大家好啊！本人曹武顺，现任是国际公益法律协会永远名誉会长。我是香港的一个新移民，移民到香港10年，也经历了这个黑豹反送中的运动的一个过程。在这个过程当中，认识了何俊尧议员。何俊尧的议员的感召力让我加入了这个团队，能为香港的社会、为国家能出份力。也很高兴，也很荣幸，这次跟何俊尧议员带领国际法律公益协会的团员们来到日内瓦，为国际人权发声，为香港发声。中国一直是坚持依法治国办事，人权得到了法律的保障。过去几十年的快速发展，社会的稳定，人民生活水平大幅提升，充分说明了这一点。我们借着这次联合国人权会议的机会，向全世界说明香港市民对基本法23条对认同和期待的同时，和各国友好谈及捍卫及保障人权是具有非常重要意义的。最让我感受的是，这次来日内瓦，让我感受最深的是，昨天联合国人权的专员，跟我们这个团队谈了是近1个多小时、2小时，所以他听到了我们香港的非政府组织的一些声音发声，所以让我感受特别深，也是特别的有价值。 就是能为香港真正的百姓说出香港真正的声音。再有，联合国的人权理事会，在我了解的情况下，总共是6000多家，也就非政府组织。美国占据了1000多家，说中国也就是几十家，不到100家。香港呢，也就是说实话，就是10家8家这个样。所以我也希望香港特区政府、国家要重视我们这些民间的声音，就能给香港说出真正的话，为中国改革开放40年人权乃至说发展经济情况多向国际社会发声，让他们多了解中国，多了解香港市民的这些本意，让这些反华势力少拿的是人权、民主的幌子来打压中国。最后呢，我是借着国际公益法律协会今天这次宝贵的经验，鼓励更多的年轻人多参与国际事务，配合国家"一带一路"，为国家做出更多的贡献。谢谢大家。
谢谢。Thank you, Mr. Chow. Now, if I may invite Mr. Ines Tang to do the translation, please.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chow Feng-Shun, the honorary president of International Probono Legal Services Associations. Also a new immigrant from China, I am very touched by Mr. Ho's efforts to serve the community. I am honored to lead our team to the United Nations Geneva for the 55th and 140th sections of Human Rights Conferences. This is a memorable moment for IPLSA to stand in front of the world community to express our commitment to defend human rights and to tell Hong Kong's story well. China is a nation with an established legal system. Human rights are well protected by the rules of law. The outstanding social and economic development of China cannot be achieved without stability, which comes from the legal protections of social order and individual rights. We take this opportunity of interactive dialogue with the global communities via the United Nations platform to express Hong Kong people's support and their longing for the establishment of the national security law under Article 23 of the Basic Law. At the same time, we share each other's effort and concern in facing human rights challenges. It is a precious experience for all of us. Yesterday, we visited the High Commissioner and let them fully understand what Hong Kong public think about the Article 23. Furthermore, IPLSA would like to encourage the Hong Kong young generations to participate in international communication, building international network, and contributing to the China's One Belt, One Road initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think we have already given to the ladies and gentlemen a very overall overview of what we have done and what we are trying to do, the nature of and also the background of IPLSA. If I may now just open the floor to the to those audience. If there is any questions to raise, please do so. Isabella.
Either here in the room or, of course, online, please ask your questions written or raise your hand and we'll pass you the floor here.
Thank you. Thank you. Since this is the first time for the association to be here in Geneva to attend the UN Human Rights session, I think you must have a lot of impressions. So what impressed you the most from this trip? This is the first question. Another question is, I know Mr. Cao just mentioned yesterday you met various UN human rights special reporters. So would you please talk a little about the major concerns from the special reporters about Hong Kong situation, especially the Article 23 legislation, and what's your reply to them to make them better understanding about the situation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I may just quickly paraphrase the questions for Mr. Chow. 第一个问题，记者问，最令我们的印象深刻的是什么东西？第二，昨天跟有关的人权的事务委员会的官员见面，他跟我们聊的时候有什么体会？他们有对我们的23条立法有什么看法？那让我来回应好不好？Thank you very much. Actually, the most impressive thing that we have about Geneva are quite a lot. Number one is scenic spots, and number two, this is an international metropolitan city, and highly concentrated with and populated with diplomats in this city, which is very well, I would say very impressive. The way the United Nations do is highly effective. The meetings they organize is very fruitful and very meaningful. Number two, how was the dialogue that we had with the persons in charge of the human rights, in so as the Pacific Asia is concerned. And I would say they were very pleased to see us here, because they could have a personal, direct hearing from us on the explanation of the situation in Hong Kong, especially the 2019 incidents, and also that was the major reason which triggered the enactment of the National Security Ordinance. In fact, apart from that one, we have already been subject to or tasked with a constitutional duty under the basic law. Article 23 has said that as soon as the formation of the SAR government should deal with this piece of legislation themselves. But unfortunately, for reasons that had caused the delay, and this constitutional duty had not been fulfilled until the lapse of 26.5 years, namely this year, until now. So you can imagine, given the overseas experience, when talking about the 9/11 event, U.S. government could enact the anti-terrorism law within just 3 days. Then look at ourselves. We have taken more than a longer time than expected. Why? Because we were not trying to rush through things. We had to listen out to the general public about their comments. We make sure that there was a due process of consultation. So all this will explain to the official of who were in charge of the human rights in the Asia Pacific, and they accept it and gladly. And also another question asked, hey, before the return of the sovereignty, Hong Kong back to People's Republic of China, wasn't there any law already set in place by the British government to tackle the treason, secession, sedition, all this sort of thing? And they were very interested to know. Well, otherwise, there would be a vacuum. If there was no law put in place, then wasn't there a vacuum? I just gave them the answer that no. In fact, the British government, while they were just in charge, they will just make sure everything was set in place to protect their authority, to protect the governance, just in case if anyone tried to foul up and stir up the social events with a view to cause chaos, and then there would be sufficient law to deal with those. And in fact, those laws were there. But unfortunately, before the British left Hong Kong, they let loose all this sort of the tightening measure and allow people could, germane all this sort of the problems in guise of so-called the human rights, in guise of exercising their civil liberty, but far too much, and that was an exploitation of the leniency that was created, and they exploit and cause all the trouble since 1997. And in fact, I would say, and I would commend it, the special administrative region government for the last few terms of the SAR government. They have been very lenient and they have been very tolerating until the moment when it reached the point that enough is enough. 2019 was the triggering point that it caused the present government to have such a strong determination to pass the law with a view to what? To restore the law and order, to restore the social order, and to lay down a very good foundation upon which the economy of Hong Kong can continue to flourish and develop. And that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question here.
Thanks for taking my questions. I'm the journalist. So I have a question. I'm also interested in what you're feeling here, the first ever attendance for the Human Rights Council, and thanks for sharing with us. But we notice here some people believe what they won't believe. So that is why there are not too many journalists here. But we think that the Hong Kong issue is very popular, and a lot of people are very interested in that. And what are your plans to promote the diverse voices in this very important platform, and to promote and to tell a narrative, the real story about Hong Kong? Thank you.
Thank you. 这个记者朋友问，香港这个问题是非常受到关注的。但是今天来的记者不太多，那就怎么样可以把香港的故事讲得好一点，吸引多一些人了解等等，这个有什么措施我们要做？I think I can just put it briefly. Today is only the beginning, insofar as the IPLSA is concerned. But of course, this is a collective effort. Not only us, together with other people who are so much holding Hong Kong so dearly in heart, to act in concert, to raise all these valid questions and to answer those, to give the proper answer to those valid questions effectively. So today is only the beginning. Of course, I would love to have a bigger turnout from the journalist society and also the community. Nevertheless, we will continue to speak good about Hong Kong, to tell the international community what the real life and what the real situation is in Hong Kong. And very much so, nowadays we all know that it's so-called the alternative facts, or the so-called people could be easily misled by the misinformation, even though coming from the mainstream media, they may not necessarily speak the truth and also the real story about Hong Kong. The more people like us to speak up and put up the proper narratives are important. So that's why before today's the press conference, we also had conduct a forum lining up with school of people. Majority of them are the key opinion leaders and also professors in university. So we chat on the issues of common concern. Hopefully, all these discussions will remain in YouTube and also in Facebook, so that other people who are interested may come to join us and click on the hyperlink to see what we have discussed and what we have done. Thank you. Any question?
Thank you. Do we have any questions online? Okay, not so far. Another question here. If this is not the case, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. And thank you and good luck to IPLSA. And thank you, Mr. Kwon Yu-ho. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Oh.